The Los Angeles Clippers are going to be suffering a tough road schedule, a tough schedule moving forward, and another blow to the team with Blake Griffin being out for 4 to 6 weeks after having staph infection in his elbow that will require surgery. Now, Doc Rivers tweeted out the other day, or from sources of the Los Angeles Clippers, that this isn't something you can mess around with. When it comes to infections, you got to be safe. So Blake Griffin will be back in time for the playoffs, barring any issues with the surgery. But the issue now becomes, do the Clippers slip out of the playoff picture? Personally, I don't believe they do. I think they can hold on to a 7 or 8 seed, but I do see them falling. Now, Blake Griffin is a league leader across the board in many statistics. He's been in the top 10 or top 20, especially in assists, field goal percentage, things that he's improved his game on. But I'm going to throw real quick to our executive producer, Dan Keston, who has some interesting fourth quarter points on Blake Griffin and why he thinks that the team over the next 4 weeks can benefit from Blake Griffin's loss.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, they're not going to be a better team over the next 4 weeks. I mean, Blake Griffin has huge numbers, and this is a team that designs plays specifically for him, and they don't really have anyone on that bench who can kind of step in and run those plays. So, I mean, if you spent your season designing an offense for a certain player and he's no longer there, in the short term, that's obviously going to be terrible. Long term, however, this might actually help them, because if you watch the Clippers regularly like I do, you'll know that this team was not winning a championship this year in its current form. They just don't have enough other players who step up in key moments. And with Blake out, that's going to force other players like Spencer Hawes and Moore, Crawford to score. And when Blake does come back, I think they're going to be a much more well-rounded team. Even longer term, the interesting thing is, and Jason, I don't know what you think about this. This is going to be kind of a trial period to see what they do when DeAndre's contract is up at the end of the year, because they're going to see, can DeAndre, Chris Paul, and Blake Griffin be a strong enough nucleus to win a championship? Because if they can't win it this year with the players that they have, once they have 3 max contracts on the books, they're going to have even less talent around them, next year. So I think it's bad in the short term, but it's probably pretty good in the long term as other players step up. And when they get back, maybe that will be enough to allow them to make a real run. What do you think?
We definitely know they're an expensive enough nucleus. So, yes, these guys are all going to require max contracts. They want to bring them back. Now, Blake Griffin, max contract-wise, he sells tickets. We know that, for defying gravity and his dunks and all of it. But DeAndre Jordan, personally, is the one that I absolutely believe you need to re-sign. Here's a guy that over the last 3-4 years has drastically improved his game, and so has Blake Griffin in certain aspects. But DeAndre Jordan, as a powerful big man in the paint, and especially for Chris Paul to really feed the ball when you need that presence, has really turned into that type of player. He led the league in rebounding last year. He's right up there again this year. But are they a strong enough nucleus to win a championship? No, they need someone to play the 3. They've had that struggle for the past 2 years. And they need other players to step up. Now, we're going to see all that Spencer Hawes has to offer. And this could, as Dan just mentioned, very much work in their favor for the next 4 weeks if Spencer Hawes can just ever so slightly improve his game, be a little bit more efficient, and find some more structured and powerful minutes in that offense that is right up there with Golden State when Blake Griffin's on the floor. Their actual numbers are pretty scary when you look at them. Even with the recent slump, the Clippers have one of the best offenses in the league. Their offensive rating of 110.4 is tied with the Golden State Warriors for best in the league.
So, Jason, that's a totally good point. The thing about DeAndre Jordan is all the other players on the Clippers are offensive players, while DeAndre shuts it down in the paint. So if they don't re-sign DeAndre, they're really getting rid of their defensive presence. And that's why I said earlier, I think this is going to be a real trial to see if they can win with those 3 guys, and they really want to build their team around that nucleus and say kind of screw it for the rest of the guys. They're going to fill him in with role players. I like DeAndre a lot. I think he's huge. I think he's become one of the elite centers in the NBA. Obviously, I like Chris Paul. The thing about Blake is, as good as he is and as good as his stats are, for Clipper fans, everybody will tell you that he's one of the best 3-quarter players in the NBA. For the first 3 quarters, he's pretty unstoppable. But when it comes to the end of the game, he really doesn't deliver like a Kevin Durant or Karl Malone in his heyday, or a lot of these other players who people would consider elite. And I think that's been a knock on him as a superstar, and why, even though he makes the All-Star team every year, people don't necessarily put him in that same category as like a LeBron or these closers who win games for you.
Right, and with Blake Griffin, especially from the mid-range, which he truly has improved the most moving into this season, shooting over 50% from the field this season, he gets hot for those 3 quarters, and then in the 4th quarter, you're going to feed the guy who's been hot all game, which makes sense. Maybe the Clippers need to restructure that strategy, let Chris Paul try to improve his clutch factor, or once again, just feed it to DeAndre Jordan. The guy's a beast in the paint. You can't stop that kind of size, that kind of ferocity, that kind of power. So what do you guys think? Could the Clippers slip out of the playoffs without Blake Griffin, or do they get better and still hold their 5 seed, 4 seed that they are right now? We want to know what you think. Leave your comments in the section below. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out us on Facebook, facebook.com/TYT Sports, and on Twitter @TYT Sports.